so bad about socialism anyway? As 40 million people face the reality that on Saturday, with the government being shut down, they may not have SNAP, they may not have food stamps, they may not have their welfare. You're seeing what socialism looks like when it decides to stop feeding the people and let them starve. Now imagine that same system being applied to everything else. Your health care, your housing, your transportation. Starting to get the idea a little bit? CNN recently reported on a new poll that shows 74% of Republicans oppose socialism. 53% of independents oppose socialism. But the Democrats, 64% now look favorably on socialism. Let that sink in when you consider that the leading mayoral candidate running in New York City is himself an open, he says former communist, but declares himself a democratic socialist. This is a man who claims that the terrorists on 9/11 were the actual victims. And he's saying this in New York City. This is a man who is proposing publicly funded grocery stores. You know, the government, socialism, will feed you. Yeah, we see how that's working out right now, don't we? This is a man who does photo ops with the leading imam in New York City, that would be Muslim cleric, who after the 9/11 attacks celebrated them as great victories for Islam. He makes up stories about relatives he doesn't have who were victimized and shamed and faced prejudice on New York subways following the 9/11 attacks. And then we find out it's all fictitious and made up. In the city of Minneapolis, in the state of Minnesota, one of their mayoral candidates is himself an avowed Democrat socialist. He's also a Muslim who recently gave a speech while draped in the flag of Somalia and speaking in Somali. Things are so bad in Minneapolis that the Democratic Party from the state of Minnesota funded a documentary that you can watch on YouTube, and I've done a video on it. In fact, it's so bad that the Democrats within Minnesota are warning the rest of the country, don't allow this to happen in your cities and in your state. The fact that socialists now control the city government of Minneapolis, which has driven out about 60% of the businesses. They have defunded the police, which has allowed just wanton violence, shoplifting, and even gun violence to just run rampant in the city. The city is quickly becoming an absolute military zone, out of control. Multi-level skyscrapers, which were built for hundreds of millions of dollars, can't even be sold for a couple or $3 million now. And they now are ranking near the bottom in education when at one time they led the nation. But this is what happens when they have allowed the socialists to take over. And the Democrats within the state are warning the rest of the country, don't let this happen to you. Funny thing is, the Democratic governor of the state, guy by the name of Tim Walz, remember him? He doesn't appear in the documentary. I wonder why. Government is shut down right now because the rank and file Democrats on Capitol Hill are being held hostage by feckless leadership in Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, who themselves are afraid of the far left socialist progressives in their party. And thus, they are keeping the government closed, shut down, and now people will go unfed. This is what socialism actually looks like. When the government decides what you'll eat, when you'll eat, where you live, how you live, if you can see a doctor, how you're going to travel. Well, let me correct myself. let me offer some clarification. Under socialism, that's how you and I, the citizens, would live. I promise you, the leadership will live in wealth and have everything that they want and that they need. That's socialism. Let that sink in.